Welcome to the Payday with Rayray podcast, hosted by yours truly, Rachel Bell. I'm here to make your life easier as an entrepreneur and teach you everything I've learned about building multiple seven-figure online businesses. And on this podcast, I'll be giving you my best advice, trainings, and mindset shifts so you can grow your business and, most importantly, make every day your payday. Hello, Payday babies. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Rachel Bell, your host, obviously. And this one is a doozy. Oh my goodness. If you were listening to this episode and the title of this episode caught your attention, or maybe someone recommended it to you, it's because you are stuck in this just torturing cycle of perfectionism and procrastination. Or if you're not, you're one of the rare breeds of humans that don't struggle with this. And on behalf of everyone who does, we envy you. And we congratulate you on your lack of struggle in this department, because let me tell you, it's not something I would wish upon anyone. So in this episode, we are going to dive into why we procrastinate, why we are perfectionists, and how these two complexes interact with each other when it comes to work and in business and in taking action. And if you know anything about yourself, you're already chomping at the bit and telling yourself, okay, this is it. This is the end. I'm ready to shift this. I'm ready to change. And at the same time, a small voice in the back of your head goes, yeah, you've said that before, haven't you? But I want to equip you with the tools you need to change this habit once and for all, and to set yourself free and finally stop hiding and stop playing small and stop reiterating yourself into this tiny version of who you truly are meant to be. And so we're going to dive into all the details. And before we do that, I want to again remind you who sponsors every single episode that I do up until this point, and it is Online Coach University, my own business. Online Coach University is an online education platform for online coaches who are looking to start, scale, and grow their online businesses and get more clients using the power of social media. Our signature program, Online Coach Accelerator, is our most popular by far, and inside of that 90-day business sprint accelerator, we help you find your niche, dial it in, create an irresistible offer for your niche, create an I help statement and all that jazz. And we teach you how to create content that converts and sells. We teach you all the copywriting stuff, and just what I've shared on this podcast. If you like it, let me just tell you, it's a tip of the iceberg from what I share in every module of curriculum inside of Online Coach Accelerator. So if you resonate at all with what I've shared on the podcast or what I share on my Instagram, you are going to lose your mind when you see all of the in-depth trainings and information, the frameworks, the blueprints, and the maps on how you can use the curriculum inside of OCA to grow your business. So we teach you all the good stuff, finding your niche, creating content that sells, creating an irresistible offer, learning how to sell with confidence and authenticity, and managing your business, being productive, all the rest. Not only that, but we offer an unparalleled platform of support for each and every student. We have homework that you submit and get reviewed by your dedicated coach. We have weekly calls, live streams, masterminds, everything that you would want in terms of support and on-hand feedback for each and every step that you go through in your business. We have it all inside of OCA. So if you want to learn more about that and you want to get on the wait list for when we open up enrollment in June of 2020, go to www.onlinecoachaccelerator.com. Scroll down, see if it's your vibe, see if you want to learn more. And if you do, just join the wait list and I will see you there. Now let's go ahead and dive straight into perfectionism and procrastination and how these two complexes interact with each other. The reason that I can speak on this is because I am cut from the same cloth, and I have struggled for the majority, if not all of my life, trying to find the answers to this incredibly difficult question, which is, why do I procrastinate? Why can't I just be one of those people who just gets things done ahead of time? I know that if I break everything up into small bite-sized pieces, then I can get it done over time. And what I found is that there are so many series of realizations that I've accumulated throughout my life that have allowed me not only to accept myself, but to find the unique code that allows me to thrive, even when I'm dealing with this question of, why do I procrastinate? And before we go into the how to fix it, I want to just describe how it feels to be in this cycle so that you can identify and potentially call yourself out in this cycle. So typically, if you fall into the perfectionist procrastinator archetype, nobody really knows how hard it is to be you, except you. And it's an embarrassing, humiliating, or at least it can feel that way, thing to describe to another person of how difficult it is to take action. And many other people in your life may not have that issue, and they're just asking they're asking you, why aren't you not doing this? What's so hard about this? And you find yourself creating pretty good excuses about why you can't. But at the end of the day, you know that when it's just you, yourself, and you in a room alone, you're soothing yourself with harmless distractions until it becomes an entire day that flies by and you haven't gotten anything done. And then it's another day of you just feeling disappointed. But here's the kind of the mind fuck on this. You're the overachiever on paper. Maybe you did really good in school. Maybe you just got by in school. Everyone is really proud of you. Everyone thinks that you've got your shit together. It sure seems like it on the outside. But deep, deep down, you know that you could be doing so much more. And you know that you're only operating at around like 20 or 30 or maybe 50% of your true capacity. And because of that, it just hurts. It hurts to feel like you have so much more to give and so much more to say, but the capacity that you can share those things in seems to be restricted by this invisible block. So because of this issue, behind closed doors, you seem to be trapped in an embarrassing cycle of this self-sabotage where you're good, but you're never good enough, or you're meeting your deadlines, but just barely, like at the nick of time, or you're working all the time and you're always sitting at your computer, you're always on your phone, you're always quote unquote working, but 6 months goes by and you don't feel like you've gotten anything done. And then you have big, big goals and a huge vision and dreams, but you spiral into overwhelm at the drop of a hat. It's very easy for you to get overwhelmed and to feel like, I just can't do this right now. And you continuously ask yourself, why haven't I gotten anything done? Why can I not focus? Why is it so hard for me to concentrate? What is wrong with me? And secretly, like I mentioned earlier, you know exactly what's going on. You soothe yourself with those harmless distractions, scrolling on social media, watching a YouTube video, reading something that has nothing to do with what you should be reading, cleaning your house, doing things that are seemingly productive but have no correlation with what you actually know you need to be doing, until it becomes this suffocating pattern of avoidance. It's avoidance of making a mistake. It's avoidance of looking stupid. It's avoidance of failure. And ultimately, it's the avoidance of the possibility that you're not good enough. You're not smart enough, fast enough, motivated enough, funny enough, pretty enough, interesting enough, just not enough. And you only want to be seen under perfect conditions, and it feels like a mental prison. Okay, so if you resonated with any of that, I totally get it. And like I said, I've battled this for most of my life. And one of the things that I've learned is that you being perfect is actually not what anyone wants. And more importantly, it's not even what you want from yourself, if you're being completely honest. Because your deepest desire as a perfectionist, as a procrastinator, when I say that, I don't want you to hardcore identify with it as who you are. I'm just using it as an archetype to describe this phenomenon. But when you do identify as a procrastinator or a perfectionist, your deepest desire is that you want to be loved for who you are, not what you do. But expressing that part of you of who you are is so difficult when you can't take action to show other people. And you probably in the past, in your childhood, had to be perfect or do everything right in order to earn the love or approval of others. And that's okay, because perfectionism means that it's simply your old survival system. And what you know after listening to just a few podcast episodes is that if you truly want to impact the world and reach your dreams and help others and achieve your full potential and raise your consciousness and your awareness level so that you can fully ascend who you are today and become who you are meant to be, you need to understand that survival is not enough for you. So what does that mean? We need to start messy. We need to show the world what we've got. We need to move with speed and purpose, and we need to be brave enough to share who we are right now, even though we may not match up to who we truly know we can be. Because the beauty of you is not where you're perfect. It's where you are fearless. So you can do this, but I want to explain how these two things, perfectionism and procrastination, interact with each other on a daily basis. And this is what I call the crazy 8 cycle of perfectionism and procrastination. The crazy 8 cycle looks a little something like this. And again, for the first half of this podcast episode, you're just going to feel called out as fuck if this is you. And you're going to be like, okay, I get it. Like, this is so much. But I want you to understand how this cycle plays out. Because if you haven't taken time to meditate or focus or really concentrate on why this keeps happening in your life and in your self-sabotage system, you're not going to have the zoomed out perspective of exactly where to nip it in the bud and where you start getting distracted or avoiding your true purpose. So this is what the crazy 8 cycle really looks like. You start off with a dream. You create this perfectly aligned dream and this vision of what brand you want to have and who you want to be talking to and what kind of stages you want to be speaking on and all this stuff and what your Instagram feed is going to look like and what your logo is going to look like and all this amazing stuff. And you get so pumped up and you envision the perfect outcome for this thing. So you start taking the first step. You're like, fuck yeah, let me get into Canva or Photoshop and let me start making this stuff. And then eventually, as you start taking the first steps, your stomach starts dropping and you realize that you don't know how to do something, or you are taking a long time to do it and you don't know why, or that you're getting caught up on what your font should be or something like that. And eventually self-doubt creeps in. So you stop and you put it off. Even though it's what you want more than anything in the world, you just kind of stop doing it. And you say, well, I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later. And then you kind of start hating yourself for distracting yourself and putting it off time after time after time. Maybe multiple days will go by, or even multiple hours will just go by, and you're still not starting on what's most important to you. And you know that it's the most important thing and you want to do it. Like when you look at your to-do list, you're like, I want to do all this stuff. But then when it comes down to doing it, you just can't make yourself do it. So then you build up this self-doubt and this self-disgust about like, oh, fuck, what's wrong with me? And then you start quitting, procrastinating, putting it on the side until you envision a new, different, perfect outcome. And you get excited by your vision. And then you start taking the first step. And then you realize you don't know how to do something. And your self-doubt creeps in. And this crazy 8 cycle just continues to play out with any task that you commit to doing. So you'll start out with perfectionism and you'll hold yourself to that standard while you are doing something. And that's why procrastination comes into play, to limit the amount of action that you take, because you know that if you go any further, things are going to start crumbling and not be perfect anymore. And there's part of you, the survival system, that's so incredibly active that says, oh my gosh, if it's not perfect, we can't do it. It's not even worth doing. If it's not perfect, then what are they going to think? If it's not perfect, then what am I going to think? If it's not perfect, then what is that going to mean for my reputation and who I am and what I want to be seen as and how I want to express myself? And it's so much pressure. Of course, you wouldn't be able to take action if it has so much pressure attached to every single thing that you do, right? Now, a key thing that I want to point out is a self-doubt. When we experience self-doubt, and this was shared with me by one of my dear friends, Nathaniel Solis, we were FaceTiming the other night and he was like, people stop too early when they feel self-doubt. And I was like, yeah, tell me more. Because I was like, please tell me. Like, I totally agree. And why do they stop when they experience self-doubt? And it's because self-doubt literally points out the exact area that you need to work on. Self-doubt is like this autopilot location system that points out exactly what your concern is and what area you need to improve, either in your character, in your abilities, in your skill sets, or in your vision. So if you are about to launch your program and you have doubt that not enough people are going to sign on, or you have doubt that you're not going to be able to do your sales calls in a very confident and authentic way, then that is automatically autopilot locating the exact area of improvement that you need to focus on. But instead of looking at it like, oh, that's what I doubt, so that's what I need to continue to lean into and learn how to do that in a better way and improve myself, we stop self-doubt right there and we go into denial. We're like, no, it's going to be fine. I'm just going to have to do it. But what we don't realize is that self-doubt is a huge opportunity to create a customized curriculum for ourselves in our lives so that we can improve. And it's this autopilot thing. And even in the most normal situations, like let's say you're about to go to a party and you feel a little bit of anxiousness around going to the party because you don't know anyone there. And you have doubt that nobody's going to start a conversation with you, or you have doubt that you're going to be able to be cool there, or you have doubt that you're going to be able to meet anyone. well, then your brain is automatically pointing out, without even trying, exactly what area you feel like you need to be more sufficient in order to survive and to thrive. And so that might be social skills, conversational skills, learning how to be more confident within yourself, regardless of whether anyone talks to you or not, or thinks that you're cool. But we stop self-doubt and we don't pay close enough attention to it because we're so afraid of being inadequate. And so for the perfectionists and the procrastinators out there, when you experience self-doubt, that's your brain's autopilot way of hyper-locating what it is you really need to improve and dig deeper into, instead of stopping and just switching ideas or switching passions or switching niches or switching your brain off and tuning out and watching social media content instead. So anyway, why do we do this? Why do we even have these self-sabotage systems? Why do some of us struggle with this more than anything else? And this is literally the bane of our existence. And then some of us don't have this at all. And it comes down to 4 big reasons why. And after I go into the reasons why, I'm going to equip you with 4 life-changing tools and tactics on how you can change this. So stay tuned for that. But the reason why we start out in our lives as perfectionists or procrastinators is usually because of childhood programming. Oh, big surprise there. If you're a mindset coach or you're a lifestyle coach or a spiritual coach, you already know what I'm talking about. This childhood programming before we hit the age of 7, and our logical mind and our reasoning brain are not really online, and we're just learning things and getting downloads and literally getting programmed into what the world works like and what we need to be or do or give or have in order to receive love and be safe. This is where we learn the most pervasive things that follow us throughout the rest of our lives. Now, the thing about childhood programming is that, yes, it can be done through your parents saying something to you directly or punishing you or rewarding you for something that you did or didn't do. But it can also be learned by modeling, which means you watch something play out. Like, let's say, for example, that your parents, or you see a relationship where someone is treating the other member of the relationship very poorly. And you internalize that as a small child. It's like, oh, that's what a relationship is. That's what love is. And unless someone is there to tell you, no, that's not the way that it is. That's not real love. Then you will internalize that as something that's normal and something that's, worth tolerating. And this can be done in any other scenario. I remember when I was a kid, I would have, I had an older brother, and I learned a lot about what I could do to earn or lose love through how my older brother went through his life and what kind of responses he got from my parents or authority figures in his life. And I basically, as a small kid, and I didn't even know that I was consciously doing this, but I looked at what he was doing to earn or lose love. And I just replicated everything that he did to earn love. And this was my survival system. I watched through modeling what he did to earn or lose love. And then I tried my best to just go down the path of earning love. So what did that make me into? Well, a people pleaser, a perfectionist, a procrastinator, and someone who was constantly looking for permission to move forward. Instead of an irreverent leader who, doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks of them, like I am more so today, I was definitely in the camp of, I don't want to do anything wrong because I do not want to be punished. I don't want to be left alone. I don't want to be rejected. And so I want you to take a moment to just reflect and think back, if you can, to your childhood. And I know that some of us had a really rough time there. And if you can, view that time in your life through a lens of unconditional love and compassion. Realize that our parents were doing the best they could with the resources they have. And sometimes they don't have very good resources. Sometimes they have great resources. Just think back to that time and figure out, what were you programmed to believe or to do or to think? What were the biggest values that were constantly ingrained in you as a small child or throughout your early teens or your high school days? What type of messages did you learn about boundaries, about values, about how to be, how to act, what you could do to be accepted, and what would make you rejected? Think about that. Next up, let's think about what we learned through our educational upbringing. If you're anything like me, you went through your schooling understanding that there were 2 outcomes to every assignment and every project. And these 2 outcomes had very, very different repercussions at home and very different repercussions just in general. There was either the outcome of passing or there was the outcome of failing. And that was it. It was black and white. You either pass or you fail. And that is what we learned. If we do everything right and we regurgitate information correctly and we do everything perfectly, then we pass. But if we think differently, or we're not quite on point, or we color outside of the lines, then we fail. And that is how it works in the education system. Now, what does the education system prepare us for? It prepares us to enter the workforce and to be safe and to work in systems that society relies on to be peaceful and productive. But if you are not the type of kid who thrives in the educational system as it is right now, the cookie cutter system that we have, then you will go through that experience feeling like a failure because you don't align or can't align with the way that things are being taught and reviewed. Now, is this your fault? Fuck no, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. In fact, I was one of the, kids that would really, really excel as hard as I could in most of my classes, but in other classes, I would just get such bad grades, just could not figure out math, could not figure out science, could not figure out the way that things were being taught in classrooms. I just couldn't do it. I felt literally incapable of understanding it. My brain could not process the way things were being taught to me. Luckily, I sought out some tutors and I got some tutors, but that ended up just being them digging in my brain for an answer. And I would be like, I don't know. And I would start crying and they'd be like, okay, it's 7, or okay, it's X equals 11.5. And I would just be like, okay, and then write it down and then just prepare to fail pretty much every math test that I ever took outside of my homework. So the education system definitely taught us a lot about what we needed to do to pass or to fail. And the reason why I bring this up is not to say, fuck the education system. It's to say, look at what that taught us and how that plays out in our life today. Even when there's no punishment today for doing something wrong or not doing something perfectly, we still put the pressure on ourselves that our entire career is going to end, or our reputation is going to be slammed, or someone's going to reject us, or we're going to lose love and family, and we feel like dying when we don't do things perfectly because of what we were taught to survive in the educational system or at home. So this is something to keep in mind. This is one of the reasons why we play out this drama of needing to do everything perfectly, because we were taught to. Another thing that we do that affects our self-sabotage in this crazy perfectionism and procrastination cycle is we compare our internal state and our internal way of being to the highlights of other people's lives. And social media has been one of the most amazing gifts for us to express ourselves and to connect with one another, but it's also been one of the most detrimental things to our understanding of what reality truly is. And so we're living in this thing called reality distortion field, where we do not see reality as it is. We see it as we are. So in other words, if you are having a really bad day and you're not being able to get anything done, and then you tune into Instagram stories and you see someone who's posting their to-do list, they're like, I did this today and this today and this today, and I feel so amazing, and now I'm going to go out and have a drink and da-da-da. You're like, fuck, why can't I be like that? But what you don't see on their other end is that they had a mental breakdown in a fight with their boyfriend, and they threw a wine bottle at them, and it was just a terrible day, but they're using social media as a way to, advertise their highlights and their lifestyle. You never know what's actually going on in the background of someone's content. But because of this crazy influx of content consumption that we can have at our fingertips through TV shows, through Instagram stories, through TikTok, through YouTube, through Facebook, everything, we are constantly comparing our internal to other people's highlights. And this is, again, a natural survival system. The only way that we can tell if we are fitting in and being safe, because ultimately, on a survival basis, the only way to be safe is to fit in and to belong to a tribe. The only way that we can measure where we're at in terms of status and safety is by looking around and measuring ourselves to other people around us. Now, this is actually something that's not a problem, in my opinion. It's not a problem to compare yourself. We need comparison to inspire us to become better, and we need comparison to help us understand where we're doing something right and what we could continue doing, as opposed to where we're falling short of who we actually want to be. But where this goes wrong is when it mutates into jealousy, or it mutates into self-judgment. And that's where it becomes not helpful. That's where it becomes very detrimental to our mental health and our ability to get things done in our own ways and stay in our own lane. So because of this comparison mutating into jealousy or self-judgment, we are paralyzed by our own internal state, because we understand very, very clearly all the things that are wrong and fucked up about ourselves, but we never see that from other people. Now, does that mean that you need to go ahead and post on Instagram and post about all your flaws? No, but I think that it's up to us as individuals to take the responsibility, not to expect everyone to share their dirty laundry online, but to expect ourselves not to compare ourselves to someone who's advertising this perfect lifestyle, this perfect highlight. Another reason why we participate in this crazy 8 cycle is because we are hiding from the fact that we doubt that we will be able to fill the big shoes that our destiny has for us. Ugh. And this is one of the things that hurts the most about dealing with this crazy 8 cycle, is that we are hiding and we know it. And it's not obvious to anyone else except ourselves. And we know that we are hiding from this big destiny that we know we're capable of, but that requires us to shed so much of who we are today. So much. And what we often do when we're hiding is we distract and we soothe and we look away from the truth of what we do not want to see. But the thing is that once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And so I hope that this podcast episode, if anything, allows you to see the truth of the fact that you are hiding. And that's really the best and the simplest and the most painful answer that I could give you about why you procrastinate, why you are a perfectionist. It's because it's a hiding mechanism, and perfectionism is a very cute and socially appropriate disguise for crippling insecurity. That's another thing that really hurt when I realized it and when I accepted that as truth, because I realized that if I was just trying to be perfect, it was because I was masking this incredible sense of insecurity. If I was trying to procrastinate, it was because I was hiding from my destiny. I was hiding from the person that I knew I was supposed to be because I had self-doubt about my ability to fill those shoes. And so I just would waste away my days and scroll and clean my house and do things that were not actually productive to my life mission and my purpose. And the fourth reason why we do this is because we are so good at creating really, really clever excuses. This is something that is very pervasive because we can't often tell when we are creating excuses versus when we are actually stopped or blocked by something real. And so our excuses could look as harmless as, oh, well, something came up and I wasn't able to get it done today because my dog threw up and it was just like so stinky and I had to clean it up. And then I was just out of, my flow, and then I couldn't get back in my flow. Or it could be as sneaky as, well, I actually have to do this one thing because I told this person that I would do this thing, so I couldn't do that today, but tomorrow I'm going to do it. And we have all these incredibly clever excuses as to why we keep putting things off. My challenge to you and my invitation to you is to eliminate all of your excuses, all of them. And so part of you is probably like, fuck, without excuses, I'm going to actually have to do things. Yes, that's true. No excuses. No excuses. And the reason why I'm so committed to this invitation for you to eliminate all of your excuses and to stop tricking yourself into believing that something is getting in your way is because there's a lot that you can allow to get in your way. Whether it's right now in May of 2020 and we're dealing with this pandemic, that's an excuse that you could allow to get in the way of your progress. Or if it's something that's outside of this. I mean, think back to before we were dealing with this pandemic or before we're dealing with any social or global crisis or big, huge change. The reality is you had the same amount of excuses before this time, and you will have the same amount of excuses during this time, and you will have the same amount of excuses after this time. So the question really is, when are you going to get sick of excuses and commit to doing away with all of them? I can tell you that that is your golden ticket to getting exactly where you want to be in life, and exactly who you want to be in life will show up and will start integrating into your being as soon as you burn the bridges to all that keeps you hiding and all that keeps you safe and all that keeps you small. So excuses need to go. And that's another reason why we do this thing. So to summarize the reason why we procrastinate and why we participate in a crazy 8 cycle of perfectionism and procrastination: number 1, childhood programming, passing or failing. Number 2, we compare our internal state to others' highlights. Number 3, we are hiding from the fact that we doubt we will be able to fill the shoes that our destiny has for us. And number 4, excuses, excuses, excuses. So, how can we fix it? Let's dive into your toolkit on how you can completely do away with procrastination and perfectionism. You are not lazy. That's another thing I want to make super, super clear. You are not lazy. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not alone, and you're going to be okay. And you're going to get through this. And this is something that you can absolutely ascend. I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from the experience of not only myself, but from hundreds of coaches that I've mentored to overcome this crazy 8 cycle inside of OCA, Online Coach Accelerator. And what I need you to commit to before you dive into these toolkits is this undeniable commitment to be something different, something better. And I know that you have that living within you. Otherwise, you would not be listening to this podcast. You would sure as hell not be listening to me right now if you did not have the intrinsic desire to improve and to evolve. But I need you to, again, just take a moment, put your hand over your heart and say, I'm so done with playing small. I know that I'm meant for more, and I will fearlessly pursue that forever. All right, we good? You good? I'm good. We're good. All right, let's dive into the toolkit. You are not lazy, you just need better tools. So here it is. The first tool that I want to give you in your anti-procrastination and perfectionism toolkit is healthy leveraged pressure. Yes. So if you are a procrastinator, you are not lazy like I just mentioned before. You just don't have enough healthy leveraged pressure to help you stay accountable and to put yourself on the limelight and on the line. So what I recommend for healthy leveraged pressure are a couple of different things. Accountability needs to be your end goal and the thing that you invest your time and energy into formulating right now. What works best for you? Is it creating a study date with someone on Zoom and hopping on and doing 2 hours of uninterrupted work together? And you're not there to talk. You're just there to hold each other accountable to working for a full 2-hour block and getting a specific project done during that time. So if you need help doing this and getting an accountability partner, guess what you can do? You can simply post on Instagram and say, I'm looking for an accountability buddy. Who's looking for this? Or post in a Facebook group of entrepreneurs asking for an accountability buddy who wants to do a virtual work date and hold each other accountable to getting shit done. That is something that many, many, many people will leap on in terms of an opportunity to get the accountability that all of us are so desperately starving for right now, especially as some of us are quarantined, some of us are not able to see other people in real life. So if you want accountability and you need some healthy leverage pressure, do that. Another thing to add healthy leverage pressure is to put due dates on everything that you do and understand that your first iteration is something that you will probably hate, and that is okay. And if you are proud of your first iteration, you haven't moved fast enough. That's something that I learned the hard way. And if I was proud of all the first things that I released into the public, in fact, thinking back now, the things that I released into the public and launched and shared and gave that I was least proud of and that I thought were least perfect are actually the highest converting things that I've ever done. Because speed and implementation trumps perfection all day long, and the most perfect coach never gets a client. The coach who implements with speed and precision and enthusiasm always gets the client. So you'll pretty much hate your first iteration or, beta test of everything that you do, or at least you will someday. So just get it out, get it over with. So healthy leverage pressure needs to be your first toolkit. And again, if you want a printout or if you want some notes on how you can find healthy leverage pressure, there is a download on my website that I will share at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for that. The second tool in your toolkit is called sprint sessions. In other words, this technique is called the Pomodoro Technique, and it is a work sprint format where you work for 20 minutes on uninterrupted, and you work for 20 minutes straight. You just go, 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 and then you stop at the 20-minute mark. No matter how in flow you are, no matter how excited you are, or how lack thereof you are, or maybe you didn't really get into flow, you stop at 20 minutes. And you take 5 minutes off, not to scroll Instagram, not to distract yourself, not to stimulate yourself, but to just sit there, breathe, drink water, walk around, do whatever you need to do to completely disengage from the screen. Then you go in for another 20-minute sprint of work. And then at the end of 20 minutes, you stop, drop it like it's hot, and then you take 5 minutes off. And you repeat the cycle for 4 times, and then you take a longer break of 15 minutes to just be, to think, to process, to just breathe, drink water, walk around, whatever you need to do. So if you do a couple of these sprint sessions, I guarantee your productivity will skyrocket because you are not only training your brain to get into flow a lot faster, but you're also giving yourself an out. And you're saying, okay, all I need to do is 20 minutes and then I have a break. So you're more motivated to move through that 20-minute block of time, as opposed to if you say to yourself, I'm going to work for 8 hours today, because that is such a huge stretch goal that is not digestible or broken down. And you are going to resist that, especially if you're already dealing with this crazy 8 cycle. So to sidestep the operations in your brain and in your system right now that are preventing you from getting started, just say, I'm going to start with 20 minutes. I'm going to do the first 2 to 3 things on my to-do list, and then I'm going to take 5 minutes off. And then I'm going to tackle the next 1 to 2 things on my to-do list and then take 5 minutes off. So the reason why we want to break everything down into sprint sessions are, number one, obviously it gives our brain a break and it allows us to operate in the most healthy way possible when it comes to working and taking breaks. It also allows our dreams to be digestible, because if our dreams are not digestible, they are just hallucinations. And one thing that you'll find once you implement this strategy is that tasks only take as long as we give them to get done. So if you give yourself 8 hours to build something, guess how long it's going to take you? 8 hours. And that's if you actually work on it. But if you give yourself 20 minutes to get one particular task done, guess how long it's going to take you? 20 minutes. So what we want to do is restrict the amount of time that we're able to overthink and restrict the amount of things that we're able to do in that time period, so that we are actually moving through the to-do list as we intend to, without getting distracted, without getting overwhelmed, and without getting burnt out. So sprint sessions, 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 4 rounds of those, and then a long break of 15 minutes is going to be your best bet. And a great tool that you can use to track this time is your old school, iPhone or your Android or whatever you have on your person, or you can go to tomato-timer.com, and it has an automatic timing set for 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and then a 15-minute break at the end of 4 rounds. So take a look at that and start implementing that, because it will change the way that you work. The third tool in your toolkit is to go on a low information diet. So that means restricting your screen time and restricting the amount that you consume content. So if you are in this typical distraction phase where you are constantly scrolling or consuming or doing something to distract yourself from actually being and working and doing, you're going to want to do something right now that is going to be very alarming. And what you're going to want to do is open up your phone. And if you have an iPhone, this will be very easy to access. And I don't know what the equivalent is for an Android, but Google it and see if you can find this out for yourself. But go into your settings, scroll down to screen time, click on that, and then you'll see your daily average of screen time. And then if you click on see all activity right underneath that initial graph, then you'll be able to see your weekly screen time and how much time you are spending on all the platforms on your phone. And keep in mind, this is just on your phone. This is not including your laptop or your computer. So you'll be able to see, okay, how much time am I spending on my phone per week and per day? And is that the amount of time that I'm actually doing something productive? And if the answer is no, then you have your problem solved right then and there. You are in a constant flow of consuming information. And guess what? Even when you are passively scrolling, your brain needs to articulate, understand, and digest and assimilate everything that you see into comparisons, into judgments, into belief systems, values, everything. So even if you think that you're relaxing and you're just scrolling passively and you're just checking things out and you're just blah, 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 not really doing anything, your brain is still processing overloads of information from those content consumption platforms. So take a look at that, be honest with yourself and say, am I actually working or am I actually doing something productive with that amount of time that I'm spending on my phone? If the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, then what I would recommend is a low information diet, which means restricting your screen time. And the best way to do this is to stop checking your phone first thing in the morning. So create a boundary with yourself that you won't check your phone and go on social media until after 1 o'clock p.m. or after 3 o'clock p.m. And that's when you're going to get online, you're going to do all your stories, you're going to do all that stuff. And if you are slippery, which means that you could set that boundary with yourself, but you might find a way around it, go ahead and just delete the app from your phone and reinstall it whenever you're actually ready to use it. I would recommend installing website blockers on your laptop and even going on a 2 to 3 day digital detox, and notice how your dopamine response changes dramatically and how much calmer you feel and how much more in flow you feel and how much easier it is for you to actually create when you're not overloaded with consumption. So, low information diet is absolutely recommended for those of us who are procrastinators or perfectionists. And in the words of Drake, Drizzy Drake, one of his lyrics in his songs was, "You're spending too much time on captions and not enough on action." So, thank you, Drake. The fourth and final tool for your toolkit to battle this thing is number 4, pick your battles. What will matter on your deathbed? And I know that's a big question, but you do need to ask yourself that question whenever you find yourself overthinking and being a perfectionist about a task. Ask yourself, will this matter on my deathbed? Is my color scheme going to matter on my deathbed? Is my perfect Instagram caption going to matter on my deathbed? Or is it going to matter more that I was brave enough to share, give, and create fearlessly, even when I know it's not perfect? Let me just tell you that when you are on your deathbed, and we're forecasting into the future of when you are taking your last breath, you're not going to remember the perfect landing page that you built, or the perfect conversation that you had, or the perfect live stream that you did, or the perfect anything that you did. You're not going to remember any of that stuff. You're going to remember the fact that you were brave, the fact that you were courageous, the fact that you were honest, and you were fearless. So always pick your battles and understand that when you're in the mode of like, I'm stuck, I'm overthinking this, it needs to be right, it needs to be perfect, just move on. Move on and get it out. And this is why messy action is so important for those of you who are just starting and trying to get to those 10, 20, 30K months. You need to absolutely be okay with picking your battles and creating fearlessly, even when you know it's not perfect. Okay, so to recap your toolkit, number 1, implement healthy leveraged pressure. Get accountability and put yourself on the spot. Number 2, implement sprint sessions. So that's 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Make sure that your dreams are digestible and that your tasks are only taking as long as you give them. Number 3, go on a low information diet. So restrict your screen time, restrict your consumption, and stop checking your phone like a crackhead. And number 4, pick your battles. What will matter on your deathbed? Those are the tools that I still implement to this day. And I can tell you, just as a voice of hope, this is something that you can work through. This is something that you need to work through. And this is something that is your life assignment to learn about, to understand through compassionate understanding, and to implement and decide, I've had enough of this. I'm done. And so I'm going to implement this toolkit to find my way out of this cycle. So if you want a downloadable little poster, a little printout tool that you can use to have these 4 toolkits available to you at any time, or you want to just download it to your computer for future reference, go to paydaywithrayray.com and download the poster that I made for you on these toolkits. Now, that is everything for the Procrastination and Perfectionism episode, guys. I hope that was radically helpful for you. If you have any other follow-up questions, go ahead and send them to me on Instagram, because I love doing live streams to supplement what I teach here on the podcast, and I would love to see you over there. And until next time, until next payday, I hope that you're getting out there, getting paid, doing all the things you want to do, and ending this vicious cycle. And if you need any other support, I'm here for you. And I'm cheering you on. I'm in your corner. You can do this. I believe in you. And I love you. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did find it super valuable, you just want to share it with the world, make sure you screenshot, post, and tag me on Instagram so I can stalk your profile and we can connect more. And to get notified on the next episode here on Payday, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so you never miss a beat. Get out there, secure the bag, and I will see you next payday.